Hey friends, welcome back to the Bald Booktuber. My name's Scott. Today we're going to continue with my journey through the Dark Tower, particularly Wizard and Glass. The goal for today is we'll do Chapter 5 Turnpikein to close out Part 1 Riddles, and then we'll do, hopefully, get to Chapters 1 and 2 of Susanna. So, as always, I'll stop at each kind of section break and just kind of give my spoiler-filled thoughts along the way. We'll go from there. So let's get started. All right, so section 1 was really cool. So they're kind of exploring Topeka in sort of the aftermath of the super flu Captain Trips. We learn a little bit about what's going on in that particular version of Topeka, and certainly we already knew that it wasn't Eddie's world because it was too close to his world and that hadn't happened yet. I think we've pretty much eliminated it being Jake's world because things are different enough. There's a Japanese make and model car that didn't exist in Jake's time, and it's the Kansas City Monarchs, which is not a baseball team that existed in Jake's time either. It's still possible, but unlikely that it could have been derived from Susanna's time and place, but I think it's pretty unlikely. But it's interesting talking about how like reality is sagging or whatever, and things like the super flu are like battery acid eating through different times and places. Really cool chapter so far. But yeah, we'll see where it leads to. They were able to get a wheelchair for Susanna, so that's good. That'll help with getting her around. And yeah, let's move on to section 2, see what happens. All right, section 2, Jake and the rest of the quartet discover actually Charlie the Choo-Choo. I don't know. We'll see where that goes, but it obviously puts a bit of a scare into Jake, and the rest of the group make sure that he's okay because they can feel his fear being part of the quartet. But I don't know. We'll see what happens in section 3. All right, so they're kind of exploring the zoo around Gage Park, and animals are dying and decaying, as one would expect in the middle of a super flu pandemic where a bunch of people have died. Oi is being Oi, so that's good. And then Roland and Jake are talking about some Lord Perth guy that I probably should remember the significance of, and I don't know if that's a historical reference or a reference to one of the poems, but we'll see. And then obviously Roland says you'll learn the story very soon. So again, we're kind of building up to the initial story and kind of the point of the whole book, I think. So I'm sure that'll happen in part 2. That makes the most sense. But yeah, let's keep going with section 4. Nice little section with Eddie giving some backstory about he and his friends when he was his brother, one of them, when they would pull a name out of the hat and that person had to stay straight and everybody else did the junk, and then they would drive around and listen to music. So got another Creedence reference, which is always good. Roland says something about let's do some turnpiking, so I'm assuming they're gonna pick out a car and go in it. I don't know, but yeah, let's see what happens. So very short section, but an awesome one. There's some spray painted graffiti that says "Watch for the walking dude." Obviously that's going to be the man in black, I would assume, from here and from the stand. And then another one says "All hail the Crimson King," which I know that character is important to this story and Insomnia and others, but I don't know enough to really know the significance there. But I'm going to keep reading and find out. really weird section. They come upon a thinny and it's bothering everybody. Roland has several of his shells left over, even the wet ones that'll never fire again. That got destroyed, and they use those as earplugs essentially, which I've never heard of putting bullets in your ears as earplugs, but you know I've never heard a lot of things that happen in this story. So it turns out that none of the shells outside of Midworld work for this. Eddie tried his that were part of his world, and or I guess Jake's world, and those didn't work. They muffled the sound a little bit, but they didn't take care of it or whatnot. Uh, I I don't know. So they're upon another thinny. It's bothering everybody, and they've got the bullet shells in their ears to make sure it doesn't bother them as much. Makes absolute sense. Okay. All right. Short section. Not a ton happened. Eddie's trying to point something out to Susanna and Roland. Says, "Roland, you have the best eyes. What is that?" And Roland basically says, "So we'll see it better when we get closer." Eddie kind of presses him, and Roland just repeats the same thing. So, yeah, I don't know what Eddie spotted here. So, just an aside, the thinnies. I'm curious if that is the portal that Jake used, another Jake, used in the story 11/22/63 to get back to Kennedy's time. I don't know. Maybe it's not, but I'm thinking there might be some parallels there if I understand the concept of the thinny correctly, and I probably don't. But I'm wondering if that's what it is in the back of the diner that allows Al before him and him to kind of travel between those timelines. But anyway, that doesn't have anything to do with this vlog, just me musing. So sorry if I spoiled parts of that book for somebody. So moving on. All right. So the group is kind of camping out and getting ready to go to sleep. And Roland promises that he will tell his backstory and the story of Susan tomorrow so he can put his past behind him. So just a quick passage here that makes me happy. So Susanna asks Eddie if he's tired, and he's like, "It's not every day that I hook a ride on the world's fastest train, destroy the world's smartest computer, and then discover that everyone's been scragged by the flu, all before dinner too." I love Eddie. He's the best. All right, moving on to section 9. That was a confusing sequence. So we've got sort of the return of Gasher, our old friend, and he's kind of driving a bulldozer to flatten out a rose that they see. There's a sign that talks about all paths leading to the tower, and something about a bear, going by memory, which isn't great. We've got Bob the engineer making an appearance from Charlie the Choo Choo. Okay. And then all of a sudden, Bob the engineer becomes Roland, I guess. Okay. All right. So it makes a lot more sense now. So obviously, the reason I was confused is because that was a dream that Eddie had. So good. Good that it makes more sense. So it's interesting. Roland says that dreams either mean nothing or everything. And if they mean everything, it's probably somebody from the tower telling them what it is, I guess. So Eddie kind of relays the dream back to Roland. He asks if Roland will betray them, and Roland pretty much says, "I can't promise I won't, but I think those days are behind me. I've played the betrayer before. We're quartet. I don't think I'm going to betray you." And then Roland kind of says, "We need to protect the rose at all costs," and kind of intones or makes it seem as if the rose is actually kind of a, not, I don't know, placeholder or like a metaphor for the tower itself, which is pretty cool. Obviously, we've seen this rose depicted previously in the Wastelands, so and it was okay in Jake's world. But Roland kind of reiterates that sometimes a thing only exists in one reality, one when and where, and not others. Excuse me. So cool chapter, and we're gonna keep going. Just a short one there. And at one point, Roland says something like, "It will if God wills it," and Eddie tells him, "You could have made a fortune writing fortune cookies," which is hilarious to me. But yeah, not a ton happened there otherwise, and yeah, they're continuing their walk east along I-70, so we'll see where that goes. So just a quick section. So Susanna sees a super tall building that she thinks is a beautiful building, more beautiful than the Chrysler building, and yeah, she's wondering why something so fabulous is here in the middle of nowhere, basically. Sorry to anyone from Topeka. So let's keep going. All right, so short section. One of the cool things I like about this is that the stars in the sky are different between worlds. So obviously in Roland's world, they've got Old Star and Old Mother, and then in our world there's the Big Dipper and whatever the other one is and stuff. So yeah, I like that, those kinds of differences. That's really cool, and that's brought up again. And something makes Roland anxious or nervous here, and they say he looks like he's seen a ghost. So not sure what that is, but I am sure we'll figure it out. So let's keep going. All right, so pretty cool section. So Roland is starting to reminisce and starting to talk about when he was 14, and some of his history with court and with Martin and these kinds of things. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, apparently it was when he was 14, and it was one of his last good nights sleep, or if the very last, I'm not sure. And talking about a single pebble kind of starting to slide. I guess the life that he propelled towards, and his caw at that point, maybe, I don't know. And yeah, pretty cool. Let's keep going. All right, so that finishes up chapter 1. I just did sections 15 and 16. His dad, Stephen, not a great guy, abusive and other things, it would seem. I think there was love from his father for Roland, and in the opposite direction, but it was not great to read Stephen slapping him and stepping on his fingers and this sort of stuff. That's not good. And apparently Stephen whispers in his ear that he's known for 2 years. Apparently it's time for Roland to begin his quest, at that time his quest to find friends and travel east. And now we're going to hear the backstory about Susan Delgado, his initial Susan. So that's where we're gonna pick up on part 2, chapter 1 here. So let's keep it going. All right, so I don't really know what's going on here to start the chapter. We meet a character named Rhea of Coos Hill, and she's an old woman, and she's got a snake that she drinks poison from. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. If I'm supposed to get more out of that, I didn't. So let's keep going and see if it clarifies for me here. Yeah, section 2 completed, chapter 1 completed. I don't know the significance of Rhea yet. She appears to have a vision of sorts through a ball that she has, and sees presumably a young gunslinger and his friends. Nothing. I got nothing. If I was supposed to get a lot out of that first chapter, I didn't. So hopefully chapter 2 gives me more insight into what's going on, because I'm pretty confused so far. All right, chapter 2, sections 1 through 3, because sections 1 and 2 are very short. We get introduced to Susan Delgado. She is going to see Rhea the witch, and they have some palaver, as it were, back and forth. It turns out that Susan's father, Pat, had died 5 years ago. Rhea, for some reason, knows this, and Susan obviously was very close to her father, it would seem, and keeps a brave face on. And there's some, internal thoughts about the importance of not showing fear in these sorts of things. It's not clear yet what the purpose of the visit is, but I'm sure it will become clear. And let's move on to section 4. Okay. We find out what the purpose of the visit is, and it's really a pretty gross sequence. The whole idea is that 16-year-old Susan needs to have her honor and purity tested by this grotesque thing named Rhea, because Susan is going to bear the mayor's child. Yeah, the whole thing is extremely gross. I don't know. Let's see. I think I'm gonna shut it down here for the day. I probably would have time to do one more chapter, but I think we'll end on that note. Pretty fun reading session. I didn't enjoy much of what I read in this most recent sequence, but I'm sure it will be meaningful as we go forward. So, not quite the intro to Susan I thought we would have, but that's okay. I'm sure all of it will lead to hopefully something a bit more enjoyable and fun to read. So I hope you all enjoyed this session, this vlog, and thanks so much for joining me on the journey, and we'll talk to you soon.